Ça va bien. Est-ce que c'est dans la poche pour Pierre Poilievre?
Oui, je pense que c'est une victoire, mais on attend jusqu'à le 10 septembre.
Donc, vous croyez, vous, qui gagne au premier tour, c'est réglé?
Oui, j'ai vu les numéros de vote, de cartes de membres qui étaient vendus et je pense qu'il a plus de 300 000. Et en addition, je pense que le bas soutient Pierre.
Qu'est-ce que vous pensez de la position de M. Poilievre sur le World Economic Forum?
Oh, il y avait beaucoup de bruit sur le sujet.
Êtes-vous d'accord avec sa position?
Alors, il a
que
dit...
ces ministres, par exemple, vous qui l'appuyez, vous pourrez peut-être être ministre un jour. Est-ce que vous voulez aller au World Economic Forum?
Non.
Pourquoi pas?
Parce que je n'ai pas un intérêt. Et je pense qu'aussi il y a beaucoup de théories de conspiration, etc. Et je ne sais pas si ils ont raison, je ne sais pas, mais je pense que c'est seulement un forum pour discussion, pour le développement économique, pour la collaboration dans le monde. Alors je ne suis pas...
Mais attendez, vous n'êtes pas sûr que c'est faux de dire qu'il y a une théorie de la conspiration de contrôle planétaire?
Il y a vraiment les théories qui restent. Mais je ne sais pas si... Non, je ne sais pas.
Don't you think that Mr. Poilievre is feeding that conspiracy by saying, oh, we should be afraid of the world?
Non, je pense qu'il a fait un commentaire de dire, je ne suis pas une part de cette groupe et...
But he's talking about the Great Reset, right? Which is code for...
Mais ça, c'est on le raconte public, oui.
But he's talking...
Pierre,
Great Reset is code for World Economic Forum wants to take over the world.
Ouais, non. Je pense qu'il a dit exactement que Justin Trudeau a dit vis-à-vis le Grand Reset.
And can I just ask you in English, pretty much the same things about that? I mean, you think Pierre Poilievre's won it already? We still have to...
Well, we've sold 311 and change memberships, and in addition to that, of the existing 140 some odd memberships, I think the base is supportive of Pierre. And so with those numbers, once we see them all confirmed by the parties and the number that other candidates have sold, I do think that Pierre has got the advantage at this time. Now, as you know, in politics, things can change. So we've got to keep the momentum. But I'm excited about the number of young people, the number of women, the number of people that have never been members of the Conservative Party that Pierre has attracted. So
and we've asked you about the World Economic Forum. What about his position on the Bank of Canada governor? Do you think Kip Macklin should be fired?
Well, you know what? I think that it's clear the Bank of Canada has not met their responsibility on inflation. That is their job. And in any organization, there's performance reviews.
So yes or no, he should be fired?
You know what? I leave that to the Bank of Canada. I believe in the independence of the Bank of Canada.
But Pierre Poilievre doesn't.
Hey, Mr. Motz, do you think Mr. Poilievre has it in the bag for the leadership?
I think there's 6 great candidates in this particular race, and the work's just begun.
And
what does that mean? Yes or no? Is it in the bag?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think that every campaign now has an opportunity to reach out to, which will be a record number for any political party of memberships, and just show to them what they can produce or have and what they have to produce for the leadership and their vision for our party and for the country. And I know that I've been supporting Mr. Poilievre all along, and he has, there's some advantages certainly to the campaign, and the work that's been done I think is reflected on the memberships that we've got.
Do you think there's a potential of fraud, given there's so many new members? Is it feasible for the party to check all of them, and therefore is there a risk that there'll be some invalid membership? No,
I think the party has demonstrated the due diligence on a number of fronts right from early on how memberships are acquired, and the fact that they are weeks behind processing memberships, I think, is a great indication of the due diligence they're doing to ensure that they're appropriate.
Do you think the September 10th deadline is feasible given the number of memberships? I mean, are they actually going to be able to process everything on time?
That I don't know. I would think so. They've set that date. I think people are maybe officials were surprised at the number of memberships. I certainly was, but I think the fact that there could be 500,000, 600,000, 700,000 Conservative memberships speaks to the dissatisfaction that the Canadian public has with with the current government and where we're going and where we've been and where we are going. I've talked to people in my riding who have never had a membership, and they want to have a say in the leader of the next, who's going to be the leader and the next prime minister of this country.
And what do you make of some of Mr. Poilievre's positions? Mr. Macklin, the Bank of Canada governor, is holding a media avail this week. Do you think that he should be fired if Pierre Poilievre becomes prime minister?
Well, no, I think the 2IC of the Bank of Canada has made it very, very clear. The Bank of Canada is accountable, and I think that kind of clarified a lot of misconceptions of what Mr. Poilievre was saying, is that the Bank of Canada has a responsibility to the Canadian public and the Canadian economy.
So
And
should he be fired?
that's not up to me to decide.
But you're supporting Mr. Poilievre, and he was very clear he should be fired.
Well, if anyone in a position of that responsibility is not doing their job, maybe that's a consideration that should be given.
But do you think it's up to politicians to do it? That's the question.
Well, that is a great question.
But what do you think?
Who is responsible for the Bank of Canada? Does government provide some leadership there in their policies? I would think so, a little bit.
So you think politicians should have a right to fire the boss?
Well, I think that there's some further discussions that need to occur on a lot of fronts of who's in what positions in leadership around different areas of
It
responsibility.
seems like you're afraid to answer the question.
No, not at
and
all.
that you don't agree with Pierre.
So I'm not saying that at all. You're saying that. I haven't said that.
But why
No,
are
you're
you
saying that.
It's just that I don't understand what you're saying.
It's not up to me to decide on whether Mr. Macklin should be fired or not. If Pierre is the next leader of our party and the Prime Minister of Canada, and he chooses to dismiss Mr. Macklin, then that's his choice, and I support that choice.
Mr. Motz, as a former police officer, what do you make of the current reported run on handgun sales in the upcoming lead up to this freeze whenever it's going to go into effect? Speaking frankly, do you have a concern about all these people running out to buy handguns suddenly, or?
And neither should you. Neither should the Canadian public. The people who handguns in this country are prohibited unless you meet the very strict criteria in order to have one, a restricted firearms license. And so the reason they're restricted is because not everybody can run out and get one and acquire one. So the fact that people are acquiring handguns should not cause anyone alarm, because those people are properly vetted, the most law-abiding people in this country. In fact, you look at Stats Canada stats, firearms owners, PAL and RPAL holders are I think it's 3 or 4 times less likely to commit a criminal offense than the average Canadian. So why should we be afraid of those who already follow the law?
Do you think this freeze is a step in the
No,
right direction?
absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's not the law-abiding firearm owners who are creating havoc on our streets. It's the criminals. And you tell me what criminal is they're not following the law already. So what is a handgun freeze going to do to them? Do they care that they have illegally acquired firearms? Of course not. No, you can ask if you want to have a good perspective on things, Marcel Wilson, who runs the 1x1 movement out of Toronto, he was the leader of a major gang in Toronto. He's turned his life around. He might open your eyes to what gang life was like and the acquisition of firearms. They don't give a rip about the laws we have in this country, but they need to be held accountable. And you know what's interesting? Marco Mendocino and I, we were involved in the TV Ontario's political blind date. This is back a couple years back, and so I brought him out to my riding, and we went to a gentleman who teaches firearms and firearm legislation and gives a safety course, and we also looked at. He brought me to his riding, and we met a lady in a playground who had both of her daughters shot in a gang shooting. Now, thankfully, they lived. And I asked her the question. I said, "So, as parliamentarians, what would you tell us about our responsibility and about what we should be doing to deal with firearms legislation?" They said, "Gangs and people who use firearms and illegally are not afraid of the police, and they're not afraid of the law. they need to be held to account. Now, TV Ontario didn't air that piece. I thought Mark was going to have a heart attack when he heard that. But the reality is, there is no accountability to people who use firearms at the commission of an offense, and there should be, right? So, anyway, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Concernant le membership, est-ce que ça veut dire que c'est dans la poche pour Pierre-Hugues?
Alors écoutez, chacun a proposé des chiffres, d'autres ont proposé des estimations. Laissons les choses aller. Alors on sait que la première étape est franchie, c'est-à-dire ceux qui veulent devenir membres du parti avaient l'occasion de le faire jusqu'au 3 juin. Et là, on rentre dans l'approche beaucoup plus corps à corps, disons, où les gens doivent faire des contacts directs avec le chef et convaincre les gens. Laissons les choses aller. Moi, j'ai toujours bonne confiance.
À ce moment-là, les chiffres qui sont remis...
Non, je n'ai pas à remettre en question parce que je n'ai pas vu ni les preuves de l'un ni les preuves de l'autre. Alors, moi, ce que je sais, c'est qu'il y a des gens chez nous qui nous ont contactés qui veulent devenir membres. C'est une très bonne chose. Ils le sont maintenant, c'est encore mieux. Et puis, bien, on va les convaincre que pour moi et pour bien des gens, M. Charest est le meilleur chef.
Mais avez-vous des interrogations quant à l'intégrité du processus? Devant un tel nombre de nouveaux memberships, a-t-on vraiment le temps de toutes les vérifier? Et donc, est-ce que ça peut ouvrir la porte à des irrégularités?
Alors, je ne suis jamais adepte des théories du complot, de quoi que ce soit, de quelque nature que ce soit. Moi, j'ai confiance en l'autorité du chef, du parti, pardon. Moi, j'ai confiance en l'autorité du parti. Ils ont tous les pouvoirs nécessaires et toute la marge de manœuvre nécessaire pour assurer que le système fonctionne convenablement. Alors, on est très heureux de voir que ce sont des milliers de personnes qui ont joint notre parti. C'est une excellente idée et on souhaite que des millions de personnes joignent notre parti dans 3 ans lors des élections.
Il y a des enfants qui sont pris présentement dans la guerre en Ukraine. Vous avez peut-être entendu le reportage de Radio-Canada. Et le gouvernement ne va pas les chercher. Qu'est-ce que le gouvernement devrait faire pour aider ces enfants-là qui sont pris dans les circonstances?
Ouais. On sait qu'il n'y a pas de situation facile en situation de guerre. La guerre étant la chose la plus horrible qui soit, il n'y a pas de situation facile à gérer. On a tous été émus quand on a vu justement les images et les témoignages hier à la télévision d'État. Et on remercie, on félicite celles et ceux qui font le métier d'aller cueillir l'information là où elle se passe. Mais il est évident que le gouvernement doit tout faire pour permettre à ces enfants-là de quitter l'horreur de la guerre. Évidemment, c'est facile à dire, mais vraiment pas facile à faire. Alors, on ne peut qu'encourager le gouvernement à tout faire. Et il n'y a personne qui est de mauvaise foi là-dedans. Mais c'est sûr que l'action doit être porteuse et doit être réelle. Je constate comme vous que ça a pris plusieurs semaines, pour ne pas dire mois, avant que le pont aérien permettant à des gens de venir s'établir au Canada s'est fait. Mais ça a quand même pris un certain temps. Alors, mieux vaut que les choses se fassent correctement que rapidement tout croche. Dans une situation de guerre, on ne peut que souhaiter que tous les efforts soient mis, particulièrement pour les enfants, et on encourage le gouvernement canadien à en faire encore plus et de façon plus efficace.
Mr. Deltell, sorry, I arrived late to this from. I just wanted
Good to
to
see
get
you.
thank you, nice to see you this morning. Your thoughts on the Conservative leadership race and whether or not it appears that Pierre Poilievre has it in the bag, he's going to win on the first ballot.
Well, take it easy. No vote in the box right now. So there is a lot of job to do, a lot of people to meet, a lot of people to convince to vote for the best leadership candidate. In my case, I do prefer Jean Charest, as you would know quite well. So that's what I intend to do in the next weeks. To meet my people in my riding, especially, and those that I know, to convince them that Jean Charest is the best choice. And I'm quite sure that all the other supporters of our other candidates will do exactly the same. I have full confidence in the party to achieve it correctly. We all recognize that this is a huge challenge, maybe bigger than someone expected, but this is what leadership race is all about. And we shall respect the democracy, and I have full confidence in the party to be sure that it will be made correctly.
Vous mentionnez que vous êtes avec M. Charest.
Oui.
Le clan Poilievre dit qu'ils ont revendu 311 958.
J'ai vu ça, oui.
Précisément. Le camp Brown dit 150 000. Vous, votre camp dit plusieurs milliers. Ça donne vraiment l'impression que vous n'êtes pas du tout dans les mêmes ordres de grandeur et donc c'est perdu.
Laissons les choses aller. Jusqu'à nouvel ordre, il n'y a pas un vote qui est encore dans la boîte. Il y a des gens à convaincre. Chacun fait sa campagne à sa façon. On l'a vu. Et c'est correct comme ça. Alors, s'il y en a qui font trompette avec certains chiffres, tant mieux. Ça fait partie du débat. Mais nous, on se concentre sur aller convaincre les gens. Et c'est correct. Je ne fais pas partie de ce que l'on appelle les gens qui comptent jour après jour tout ce qui se passe. Je vais laisser les autorités compétentes le faire si l'aventure, c'est le faire. Mais ce n'est pas une bataille de chiffres, c'est une bataille de conviction. Et la bataille de chiffres va se faire le 10 septembre au soir quand on va avoir le résultat.
Le fait que, moi aussi, je suis en retard, je suis désolée. Le fait que 2 députés du camp Brown soit passé au camp Polièvre et pas au vôtre. Ça vous dit quoi?
Ben, chacun fait ses choix, puis chacun est maître de ses décisions. Je connais, moi, des gens qui s'étaient engagés pour des personnes qui, finalement, ont changé d'idée. C'est leur droit, c'est leur choix. Maintenant, ça leur appartient à expliquer pourquoi ils le font.
Oui, mais ça donne pas l'impression d'un super momentum de votre côté, non?
Écoutez, moi, ce que je sais, c'est qu'on continue à faire notre travail, on continue à convaincre des gens, puis on va continuer à le faire. Maintenant, s'il y en a qui décident de virer capot, c'est pas la première fois que ça arrive dans cette campagne leadership-là, ben, mon Dieu, ils vont vivre avec les conséquences de leurs gestes et de leurs décisions.
Juste un autre sujet sur les armes à feu. Hier, le Bloc réclamait qu'il y ait adoption d'une motion unanime, je ne sais pas si vous avez déjà répondu, aux communes pour faire que le règlement sur les armes de poing là, entre en vigueur après 10 jours, pas 30. Donc, pour que ça se fasse d'ici la fin de la session, pour éviter là, la vente d'armes massive qu'on voit.
Je préfère pas commenter, je ne suis pas assez au fait du dossier. M. Paulus va se faire un plaisir de répondre à ça. Je préfère pas
avancer le gel des armes de poing, vous êtes d'accord?
Bien, écoutez, nous, ce qu'on pense, et ça, je le pense sincèrement, je ne suis pas un expert dans le domaine, là, puis à chaque fois que j'ai eu à commenter ça, je mets toujours beaucoup de prudence par rapport à ça, parce que c'est un sujet qui est délicat, qui est sensible. Mais moi, comme citoyen, qui n'a absolument aucun lien avec les armes à feu, ça ne m'intéresse pas, je n'ai pas d'intérêt pour ça ou quoi que ce soit. Moi, ce qui m'importe, c'est de savoir que le problème actuellement des armes à feu, c'est les bandes criminelles et c'est les armes illégales. Et le projet de loi du gouvernement n'attaque pas du tout ces deux problèmes-là qui frappent tout le monde et qui, malheureusement, ne cessent de frapper. On a vu un assassinat qui a eu lieu en plein jour dans un restaurant. On a vu des fusillades qui éclatent dans des quartiers résidentiels. Ça, c'est une préoccupation majeure pour tous les Canadiens. Bien plus que ce que la loi 5 provoque. Cela dit, je vais laisser mon collègue.
I just want to ask you one more question. I know obviously you're supporting Mr. Chafet, but I'd like to ask you specifically about some of Mr. Poilievre's positions. Do you think that Tiff Macklem should be fired as Bank of Canada governor?
I'm sorry?
Do you think Tiff Macklem should be fired as Bank of Canada governor?
Well, I think that we have to be very cautious when we talk about that. As you know, Mr. Fast made some comments 2 or 3 weeks ago just here. And obviously, Mr. Fast decided to not stand any longer with the cabinet, shadow cabinet, because, he want to get involved in his policy. I think that we have to be very careful when we talk about institution, but, a leadership race is a leadership race, and we shall respect all the ideas. If we disagree with them, we can say that clearly, and if we feel very strong disagreement, as Mr. Fast had 3 weeks ago, we have to do that. But, as a Canadian and as a parliamentarian, I'm a big fan and not a big fan, but I do respect a lot all the institution. Obviously, nothing is perfect. If there is something that we want to raise, some issue, we have to do it. But there is a way to do it, and it's part of the debate.
But do you not want to say yes or no because you're worried about facing retribution in your party, like Mr. Fast did?
No, absolutely not. I am very pleased and very proud of my statement. I do support Jean Charest. I'm very proud of that. I think he's the best man to lead this party and to lead this country. Obviously, leadership race, this is a fight for ideas. I will give you another example. You have my colleague from Ontario, Mr. Atchison, who is running and is against the position that we have for supply management. Well, I do support supply management. This is a policy that is directly opposed to our traditional policy. Well, that's what leadership race is all about. And we welcome that kind of debate. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong. Well, that's what leadership race is all about.
Je comprendre ce que vous avez dit. M. Fass, lui, a fait des commentaires puis il est parti. Est-ce qu'on doit comprendre que vous n'en ferez pas de commentaires parce que vous regardez votre poste?
La question n'est pas une question de garder son poste ou de ne pas garder son poste. M. Fass a une autorité très forte au sein du caucus et au Canada. Rappelons que M. Fass, c'est celui qui est resté le ministre des Affaires et du Commerce international le plus longtemps dans l'histoire du pays. M. Fass, c'est lui qui a signé des ententes de libre-échange avec plus d'une quarantaine de pays à travers le monde. C'est l'homme qui a fait, aujourd'hui, le Canada est le pays du libre-échange. Donc, il a une autorité très forte lorsqu'il parle de finances et encore plus de réputation du Canada à l'international. Il a fait des observations à la suite de certains commentaires de candidats au leadership et il a estimé, il l'a expliqué 1000 fois plus tôt qu'une, qu'il était plus à l'aise maintenant pour le faire. Et il a tenu les propos concernant ça. C'est correct.
Yes or no on Tiff Macklem being fired?
What?
Yes or no, do you think Tiff Macklem?
Well, I don't think that's the way to address it correctly. As you know, some Prime Minister of Canada had some concern, obviously, with the Governor of Bank of Canada, but no one fired anyone in that specific case. Merci bien, M. Dame.
Vous pensez quoi du gel des armes de poing? Du gel des armes de poing.
Écoutez, tant qu'on ne s'attaquera pas aux armes illégales qui rentrent au Canada, à mon avis, tout projet de loi qui va tenter de régir les armes de poing au Canada ne donnera pas grand-chose.
Est-ce que c'est une bonne première étape, quand même? C'est un premier pas, une petite affaire, quelque chose?
Oui, mais c'est comme arriver près du pont et pas pouvoir le traverser.
Mais en même temps, c'est ce que réclamaient des villes comme Montréal, comme Toronto.
C'est pas ce que, moi, j'écoutais le président du syndicat des policiers de Montréal le vendredi ou samedi matin, puis il disait, dans le fond, le vrai enjeu, c'est les armes illégales. C'est les armes qui rentrent de façon illégale au Canada. Puis il faut avoir le courage d'aller enquêter par où elles entrent.
Mais est-ce qu'on ne peut pas faire les deux?
Bien, poser la question au crime organisé. Plus vous interdisez quelque chose qui, sur le plan légal, n'est pas un problème, parce que les armes légales de poing qui sont la propriété des gens qui sont des clubs de tir, c'est pas le problème des policiers. Le problème des policiers, c'est que 80% des armes saisies au Canada, ce sont des armes illégales et ce sont des armes qui ne sont pas enregistrées. Donc, tant qu'on ne s'attaquera pas à ce problème-là, tant qu'à moi, c'est un coup d'épée dans l'eau.
Non, mais pourquoi vous dites plus on s'attaque à quelque chose de légal? Vous, ce que vous avez l'air de dire, c'est que ça va
comme le tabac, c'est comme l'alcool, hein,
non, mais ce que vous dites, c'est que ça va augmenter l'offre d'armes illégales parce qu'on limite l'offre d'armes
Les gens
légales.
qui veulent s'en procurer, je veux dire, bon, on va continuer à s'en procurer auprès du crime organisé.
Vous avez parlé du président de la Fraternité des policiers de Montréal.
Oui.
On l'a interviewé, nous, à la presse canadienne vendredi, puis il nous dit notamment que bien que c'est minime, là, les armes de poing légales saisies, ben, il dit que c'est un pas dans la bonne direction. Donc, vous ne partagez pas son avis.
Moi, juste un pas vers le problème. OK? Je pense qu'on s'attaque à une partie du problème, on ne s'attaque pas au vrai problème.
Mais est-ce que c'est un pas dans la bonne direction, comme le dit le président de la Fraternité des policiers de Montréal?
Moi, je voudrais aller plus loin que ça.
Mais
quand tu ne fais pas dans la bonne direction, mais tu arrêtes où c'est le problème.
Il est où le problème, à votre avis? Vous parlez de la frontière, mais plus précisément, avez-vous quelque chose en tête?
Les réserves autochtones, entre autres.
Vous pensez que c'est un tâche à créer?
Il faut avoir le courage de le dire. Il faut... vous savez, les corps policiers des réserves autochtones sont financés par le gouvernement. C'est des gens qui sont payés aussi en partie par le gouvernement. Il faut que les liens entre les policiers autochtones, parce que je connais un peu, étant originaire de l'Abitibi, je connais un peu les policiers qui travaillent dans ces réserves-là. Il faut que les liens avec la GRC, avec la police de Montréal, etc., soient beaucoup plus étroits et que la collaboration soit ouverte et non fermée.
Il y a de la complaisance, vous pensez?
Pas de complaisance. C'est des gens qui sont dans des situations souvent difficiles. Hein. Ils restent dans la même ville, la même réserve que le concitoyen. On sait qu'il y a du crime organisé dans ces milieux-là, comme il y en a dans les milieux blancs. Et souvent, ces gens-là sont un petit peu, je dirais, ils ont des situations difficiles à gérer.
Ils sont écartelés dans leurs intérêts.
Un peu. Donc, il faut à ce moment-là que la GRC soit peut-être plus présente dans des dossiers plus délicats pour ces gens-là. Voilà.
Merci.
Hey, bonne journée. Bon été, ça ne se revoit pas.
Merci.
But let me just share a story. On Monday morning, my son goes to a school in Abbotsford, British Columbia. And I walk up the stairs to his daycare, which is at the school where we drop him off before school starts. And what is the supply teacher doing? They're cleaning up drug paraphernalia. And I was wondering why the school teacher was like really reluctant. Normally it's really welcoming to usher my child in, and why they were like, hey, quick, get inside. It's because there was drug paraphernalia at the front entrance where my son goes into school every day. And, you know, I am just at a shock right now how this Liberal government, under any circumstance, could decriminalize 2.5 grams of fentanyl. That could kill all of us. That is not for recreational use. That is a lot of fentanyl. I am so scared of the soft-on-crime approach of this Liberal government. BC is in an opioid crisis. We're not seeing any commitments from this government to provide appropriate care, culturally sensitive care for Canadians in British Columbia who are suffering from addiction. We're at the epicenter of addictions issues in Canada. All we get is the decriminalization of fentanyl. And I referenced my son's school experience, and I was like really upset about this. And I referenced that because right in the document between BC and the federal government references that those drugs would still be illegal on school grounds. So within 2 weeks of that coming out, I have seen and experienced firsthand the law's not being enforced in a place where we want children to be safe. And I want my school teachers in British Columbia to be safe too. And that's not happening. When we go to parks in British Columbia now, we have to scan whether there's drug paraphernalia at the parks. I have parents in my own neighborhood, they obviously know I'm an MP, and they come to me and they're scared to let their kids play in parks in downtown Abbotsford or in Mission. We've got to do more. We've got to provide care for British Columbians. It's going to cost money, but it's money well spent if we give people a pathway back to a life free from drug addiction. So we need to make those investments in mental health, and we need to make those investments in a new standard of care that are going to give people a second chance at life. Thank you.
What's the solution? You sort of alluded to it at the end, because there is a tragic problem.
Yeah.
But some groups do say that decriminalization can help in the sense that it permits these drug users to seek health services, but also go to supervised drug consumption sites and so on.
Well, decriminalization of fentanyl and say other drugs, I think is two separate discussions. And in British Columbia, we've already had de facto decriminalization for a long time. In fact, when the Canadian Police Association was here a few weeks ago, they said to me that many of them can't even recall the last time that someone's been charged for small possession of drugs. So on one hand, I recognize the argument about destigmatization for people that do suffer from substance abuse. But regarding fentanyl, that's at a whole other level.
So are you saying you would see two categories of drugs, cocaine, methamphetamine, but not fentanyl?
What I'm saying today is that fentanyl being a part of that agreement is a complete travesty, and I don't believe that it will keep Canadians safe.
But the other ones, do you have a problem with?
I am more open to what the police officers in respect to decriminalization for other illegal substances. I am more open to a policy discussion on that because a lot of what we've done already has failed. But I think what I hear from a lot of advocates in my community is that the support networks for people suffering from substance abuse is simply not there. I think there's a lot of money thrown at different things, but I don't know if it's necessarily coordinated. But I also know that there has to be investments in treatment facilities that isn't happening to the degree to which it is needed, especially in British Columbia, where we see the most deaths from the opioid crisis on a per capita basis in Canada. Well, that's another big thing. I actually called the daycare facility that, I'm not going to name the daycare facility, but I called them and I asked about the reduction in daycare, and they haven't received any word that daycare costs in British Columbia are going to go down yet. So that's another big thing that I'll be holding the government to account in the fall if I don't see that promised reduction, because I know a lot of parents are looking for that, and we haven't seen a word from the province of BC on that matter so far. Thank you, guys.
Good. Just hoping to quickly chat with you about the Heritage Committee and looking into the Hockey Canada situation. So, can you tell me where we stand with trying to create a study around the sexual assault hockey Canada situation?
Yeah, it's an awful situation. And it came to light, as you guys all know, this is an incident that took place in the Hockey Canada Foundation Gala in London, Ontario, in June of 2018. So allegedly there was a rape, 8 so-called players, and we need to get to the end of this because it was, I believe, covered up for the last 3.5 years. Now it's come out because of a reporter that has done some digging on it. And it's a serious allegation. These are elite athletes. Some of them may be in the NHL as we speak today. So we had a motion brought forward last Monday in the Heritage Committee wanting an investigation right away of Hockey Canada. I have submitted a list of names that I want to see come to committee. It's interesting because 2 of those names are no longer with Hockey Canada, one being the CEO. And so this is a very serious allegation. It's a sexual abuse, and it was covered up, I believe. and we need to get to the bottom of it right away. Why, you say? Because we have the World Junior Championship rescheduled for August. So it's time now to get to the allegations, hear everyone, and hear the report that they did on this back in 2018.
So what are you looking into specifically around the federal government? You want to call the minister? What are your concerns there?
And the minister has said, was there any federal funds used to pay the $3.55 million to the woman involved? We don't know that. I have other allegations. I lived through the Graham James situation in Saskatchewan. I was a reporter. We did the Sheldon Kennedy, Theron Fleury situation with Graham James. I thought this was all over with Hockey Canada back in the 80s. It isn't all over. We've seen this. This is a serious allegation. I mean, we have over 50 sports organizations. We've had some allegations from gymnastics, some allegations from soccer. We've had some allegations from swimming and rugby. But this is number one. I mean, this is Hockey Canada. This is Team Canada that won the gold medal in 2018 at the World Junior Championship. Now, it didn't happen in January when they won the championship. It happened at the gala in June. And I think Hockey Canada needs to come to committee and talk about why this is a serious allegation that has come out.
So just to clarify, you're hoping today to have a committee meeting to launch the study?
Yes, immediately, before we rise here. And I know that the sport minister has talked about having this in September. No. This is serious. Let's get this in right now. The NHL Amateur Draft is coming up. The Memorial Cup is coming up. I just mentioned the World Junior Hockey Championship is coming up. We need these people to testify. I know of 2 people already that have left Hockey Canada's office over this. We need them to come to the committee immediately and talk about this serious rape allegation that took place in 2018.
Are you hoping that Hockey Canada produces documents? Is that going to be a part of the study?
I want everything on the table. I want everything on the table. I want to hear from Tom Rennie, who has now left Hockey Canada. I want to know what he knew. I want to know what the entire organization knew about this. So it happened in 2018 and we don't find out about this 3.5 years later? Why?
And what? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Finish your thought.
What's that? Oh, no, that was it. I just want to know the whole situation on this Hockey Canada gala. And what happened? Who's supervising these kids?
And what
because they were 18-year-olds at the time.
And what happens if we find out that government money went to the payout? What should happen?
Well, the government of Canada gives Hockey Canada 6% of their budget. So let's start there. And I don't know if Hockey Canada used any federal government to pay.
But if they did, should we cut them?
Well, I don't know. We'll have that's up to the sport minister, right? I mean, I'm only in opposition. I want to bring these people in front. I want to see where they got their $3.55 million to pay the woman. I want to know everything on this. So then it will be up to the government. But we got to get this into the Canadian heritage. We have to get Hockey Canada officials. We have to get the lawyers who produced the facts on this allegation back in 2018, and let's do it now. It's just come out. Let's do it now.
And the Liberal members are trying to postpone this.
No, nobody said anything. Okay. We just started this, in all fairness. Okay. We just got into this on Monday. We're still doing C11, as you all know. But this, we had a motion from the Conservatives saying, no, let's not finish C11. Let's bring this report out. Let's get these Hockey Canada officials into the Canadian heritage, either Friday or early next week, for a 1 or 2 day testimony, and then we can understand what went on and if there was any government funds used back on the 2018 incident.
How long, like a study? Sorry, but how much time do you think, like broadly, obviously about this issue, but more broadly, how much time do you think you guys are going to be around for? Because obviously,
I don't know. I'm only in opposition. You got to ask the government that. I'm here to work. I'm here right to the 23rd, right?
You mentioned something just quickly. You said you would suspend the study of C11 in order to do this.
Well, that's what we're asking for.
Okay.
That's what we're asking.
I guess the government is saying, well, that's a delaying tactic because you don't want to deal with
C11. Well, they can say that, but isn't this serious allegations that have just come out? And I'm saying this because we have the NHL draft that's coming. We have the World Junior. I mean, I've given you the reasons why we need to talk about it before we rise.
And would it be possible to finish C11 and still do this inquiry before summer recess?
Well, I'm worried the government may rise. I'm worried on her question about when do we rise.
She's gone already.
You know, we've heard allegations they may rise next week. Well, that doesn't give me time to get Hockey Canada officials in here.
I get it.
So I need, now,
You
I
could
need them.
technically sit during the summer, though.
Yeah, do you have
you look
support
at-
from another party?
Well,
that
I
can
want to
help
get
you
to
call
this
in
right now. There's 2 members of Hockey Canada that I know have left the organization. Why did they all of a sudden leave the organization? Don't you think that's a little suspicious?
I don't know.
One being the CEO and one being the risk management person?
So you'd be willing to sit over the summer and study this if it
Oh, I want
needed
to do this right now. C11 can be extended later. We haven't done that. We haven't heard the, you know, they want to talk a little bit about C11. We haven't even heard, you know, from APTN. They want to hear voices, outside voices, not just regular voices in broadcasting. We haven't even heard from APTN in committee. You know, and that's an Indigenous television network. We haven't even heard their testimony. And that came from the NDP. They've submitted it, and yet we haven't even heard from APTN. So if we want to hear differing voices on C11, don't you think we should hear first from APTN, which is in every house in this country? And we haven't heard from them. And yet that was an NDP submission, and yet they don't want to bring them to committee. I don't understand that.
Did you check with other parties if they will support your idea of bringing up Canada right now in front of the committee?
We'll find out hopefully today. I don't know. We haven't even had a meeting set up today. Technically, we meet every Wednesday, 3:30 to 5:30, but it was a motion late Monday that we brought forward, so we don't know what they have it on the agenda for today or not.
But do you know if you have the support of other parties?
I don't know that. You know, I will say this. In the House of Commons, it was a bloc member that brought this up, and it was unanimous that we should do a study on it. 338 MPs. So I would assume we have all the support of all parties and all MPs. Now, do we have that coming forward today in Heritage? I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. All right?
Thank you very much, Mr.
Okay.
Waugh.
Thanks, guys.